I feel like things in the past 15 plus years have really disintegrated on campus. You're a professor. Am I wrong here? What is the state of free speech on campuses now?
Well, in general, it's been basically tracked and recorded by the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms for the last several years. And most universities are getting failing report cards on a wide array of topics, from religious freedom to freedom of speech to freedom of assembly, even on certain issues, to the whole practice of deplatforming speakers and so forth. It's clear that today's students have not been educated as we once were, that universities are places for free speech, where the free exchange of very different and often contrary ideas takes place, and where truth is sought in the midst of that conflict. And that general, I would say, backdrop of a lacking of an understanding of what tolerance is. Let's say 300 years ago, John Locke wrote something, an edict on toleration, and established in amongst English-speaking peoples that tolerance was tolerating diametrically opposite views to one's own.
Right.
And that prevailed up until the time apparently you were in university as well. And it didn't mean that the ideas were in any way pleasing. We often heard terrible things from speakers that we would not have chosen to have heard speak. But that's what universities allowed, in a way that no other place allowed that to take place. That's no longer the place, because it's been replaced by a new notion of tolerance, that of Herbert Marcuse, a 60s radical professor, cultural Marxist. Mm-hmm. And he talked about Locke's notion of tolerance being repressive tolerance, and he replaced it with what he called liberating tolerance, which was getting rid of, among other things, the tolerant views of his contemporaries. So he would not allow certain positions that were opposed to his own.
Yes, it's a very tolerant position, isn't it? And you know, it's interesting you bring up that word tolerant, because it's true. This is something I try to instill with my children, that you may not agree with someone's opinion, but you need to tolerate it, even if you don't agree with it. So that's something that's important. And I agree with you, that is missing completely. And when I see what's happened to Jonathan on campus, it reeks of intolerance, and that's precisely what has happened here. There is no tolerance for you and your opinion. And I'm glad there was a settlement out of court, and I would like to see him victorious at the Human Rights Tribunal. But is my takeaway correct? There was zero tolerance shown here to Jonathan?
Well, there was tolerance shown, but not by our definition or the English-speaking people's definition, but by the new definition, he was shown tolerance. And it was the tolerance of Marcuse and the radicals. That's the problem here. They're saying we're promoting diversity, tolerance, inclusion, and they manifest it in ways that are utterly contrary to our expectations of what that looks like. That's the problem. There are two different worldviews clashing here on university campuses, and the former university ethos is being replaced and repealed by the current definition.
And you mentioned that the students are not expressing themselves, or they have no clear understanding of tolerance and whatnot. And I guess I would ask the question, is it the chicken or the egg? Are they being taught this intolerance/tolerance, or is this something that they are generating from within in the 45 seconds before commercial?
Okay, well, it's a bit of both. I think quite naturally people don't like to hear views that they find distasteful, offensive. So that is just human nature, not to want to hear those things, to express one's own opinions and not want to hear the contrary. But they have been encouraged by the school system. I think the system has become politicized by the left, for lack of a better word, and they have taught students to be activists and not to tolerate views that are opposed to their own. So it's a bit of both.
Yeah, it certainly is. There's so much to discuss here, and I feel like characters like Dr. Jordan Peterson, yourself, Gad Saad, they're always speaking up about this lack of tolerance on campus. But we're going to pick up this discussion right when we return from this commercial break.